Thank you for your time, sir.
Thank you.
I got to ask you, first of all, when did you join the Army and how long were you in, and what made you want to join the Army?
I went to basic in the fall of 1989. I had attended college for 1 year, and being in the military was something I'd always thought of and thought I'd like to give it a try. And so after the first year of college, I decided to join the Army Reserves, and I attended basic at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and AIT at Redstone Arsenal in Alabama, and did several years in the Army Reserves. And during that time I was activated as part of Operation Joint Endeavor and went to the former Republic of Yugoslavia after their civil war had ended. I got out for a few years at the end of the 90s, and then in 2000 I decided to get back in. I was going to start pursuing a master's degree, and there were great educational benefits in the National Guard at that time. So I joined the National Guard in North Carolina, and then of course 9/11 happened, so I ended up spending about 18 months on active duty following 9/11, including a tour in Iraq in 2003.
So I guess the biggest thing, from your perspective, how rewarding is it to put on the uniform and serve your country in the ways that you did?
I think it was incredibly rewarding. It opens up a lot of opportunities for your career and for your education, as well as expanding your exposure to different cultures and different ways of life. And it's just a great experience, and I can't recommend it enough to anyone who might be considering to take that path.
So you got out in 2003, is that the right part?
I got back from Iraq in 2003, and I stayed in the National Guard for about 5 more years, and I got out in 2008.
Right. So once you're kind of out of that military part, obviously education is big because you're a superintendent. So talk to me about your path, about why you wanted to get into education and help the young people out there.
I had always wanted a career in education from the time I was a public school student in West Virginia, and I'd always thought about joining the military, so the path I was able to take actually allowed me to do both. Through my service in the Army Reserves and National Guard, I got the military exposure. I had over 2 years of active duty experience, but I also was able to further my education and take advantage of the different types of supports and resources that the military makes available to further your education, and it allowed me to have a career.
You know, and then, you know, what exactly did you teach? Like, what classes did you teach, and then how did you progress going from a teacher to probably administration and to being superintendent?
Sure. I taught elementary and middle school, and during that time I started working on a master's in school administration, and I served as a high school assistant principal for a year, and then I was fortunate enough to be hired in Bland County, Virginia as the high school principal, and I did that for 5 years while I worked on the doctoral degree through Virginia Tech. And once I finished that, I got my superintendent's license and took a superintendent's position in Monroe County, West Virginia, and was there for a few years. And then I came back to Virginia. Most recently, before coming to Franklin County, I was superintendent in Pulaski County for 7 years. And the military really made all that possible with their education benefits. I doubt that I would have went beyond a bachelor's degree if the military funding hadn't been there to help assist.
Now I'm looking at your degrees. You were at Concord, then you got your master's at Appalachian State, you got your doctorate at Virginia Tech, and what's neat is, so you got all your degrees in 3 different states: West Virginia, yes, Virginia, and North Carolina. You know, talk about, just because obviously you've had an impact at every level. I mean, teacher, principal, assistant principal, now superintendent. But when you look at each of those levels, what do you feel you've been the most impactful when you look at each of those?
Well, hopefully I've been impactful in different ways at all 3 levels. I think as a teacher, you're definitely better able to facilitate a positive impact on individual students. As a principal, you're able to work collectively with a large group of students to impact their life and hopefully make their educational experience better. And then as a superintendent, you're able to look at all the systems that go into play to make sure that schools are successful, and you're able to have a positive impact that way. So each role has been enjoyable, and hopefully I've been able to contribute something positive at each role in education.
You know, and obviously a lot of people say they want to leave a situation better than when they entered it, and obviously you did that at Pulaski County, but what is if there was a goal, a main goal here at Franklin County Public Schools, what is that main goal? Like, what's your number one thing and why?
My goal is always to do everything possible to make education a public, sorry, can I start that again?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Yeah. My goal is to do everything possible to make education a positive experience for our students and their families. So hopefully whenever my time here ends, people will be able to look back and say, he made things better, that our students enjoyed schools more, parents felt like they were better supported during his time in Franklin County than maybe they were previously. And let me just qualify that by saying we have a great school division, and the parents have been great, and we have a lot of good programs in place and a lot of really good people who are working here. So there are no major areas of concern that we're trying to address, but we are always trying to make things better for everyone.
You know, as funny as this may sound, growing up as a kid, I've always felt there are similarities between school and the military, and just as far as pretty much you got to have good leadership and all those. What were some of the things that you learned in the military that you've applied to where you are now as a superintendent?
I think being exposed to people from different areas from across the country and across the world in the military, it does help broaden your perspective, and you've got to learn how to work together as a team to accomplish your goals. Those are skills that the military instills in you every day. You know, there are plenty of opportunities to collaborate with others to try to solve problems and accomplish the mission. So that was an important part, helping me learn how to organize things on a larger scale than maybe what I would have done had I not been in the military. Just the number of opportunities that have been opened up through service in the military, and the people that I've met are some of my colleagues today are people that I've met in the military and stayed in contact with and have built relationships with, and they continue to be a source of support.
Finally, how much fun are you having in the role you are right now?
I'm enjoying it a lot. The students here are just amazing. The teachers do a wonderful job. We have programs here unlike any school division where I've ever worked, and it's been very exciting to get out and meet everyone and really work with other people who've been here for a while to learn more about Franklin County schools. And I can't say enough good things about Dr. Cobbs, my predecessor. She did a great job in helping lay the groundwork for my transition here, and the school board has been wonderful to work with. So it's just been a positive experience every day since I've been here.
This is my last question. So, and obviously talking to you on the phone and even meeting you today, I feel that you are very approachable. How important is it to have that? Because let's face facts, a lot of times when people look at a superintendent, it can be intimidating where you're a teacher, even a principal, or parents or students. But just talk about approachability and how important you want that to be in your role and just in general.
Absolutely. We serve our community. Educators are a function of trying to, let me rephrase that. We serve our community, and in order to better serve our community, we have to be approachable. People have to feel like they can come to us with issues, and they have to trust that we're going to do everything possible to help resolve those issues. So it's a goal of mine that every school division that I've been in, that we work on our customer service model and try to create cultures that are inviting, where every student feels welcome and feels that they belong, and where every parent feels like they can be comfortable sending their kids to each day. And I think we've done a lot of good work over the years toward helping create that type of environment.
Well, Dr. Siers, this has been awesome. Is there anything else you want to add or anything else you want to say?
Not that I can think of, no.
I think we ran the gamut, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
So you're a Hokie, a mountaineer, and
Mountain Lion.
Mountain Lion. I couldn't, you know, like I said, Concord's now a university now.
Yes, it is. Yeah. It's been a university probably for 20-some years now, but it was still a college then. Yeah.
Look at all those degrees. And it was all because of the military.
Yes, every one of them. I think In the doctoral program, I paid for the first year. I had to get a student loan to pay for the first year of tuition in that. And then the post 9/11 GI Bill got passed, and because of my time in Iraq, I was eligible for it, and so the final 2 years of the program were paid for through the GI Bill. So I was able to get 3 degrees with very, very little student debt.
Wow, that's what helped me out. I joined. I mean, they paid for my college.
Yeah, they do.
Take it and run with it.
It's a good
All
program.
Right.
And,
Good. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
oh no. You know, over here on that shelf, that's all of my family members that have been in the military.
I'm gonna get some shots.
Okay. My grandpa was in World War II. My dad was in the Air Force. I don't have a picture up there of him. I need to get one. And then the rest are nieces and nephews. And my brother, he went to Iraq right after I did. I was there in 2003. He went in 2004, and he had a different experience and did not. When he came back, he really struggled with drug addiction and ended up dying from a fentanyl overdose in 2015. But his experience was probably a lot rougher than mine.
Talk a little bit more about that. I didn't realize that. So your brother, you know, his experience was different. So what got him onto the fentanyl?
Well, like everyone else in Appalachia, it started out with the pain medication, and when OxyContin, and when the availability of it dried up, you know, they started looking for other ways to still get their fix, and had to turn to, you know, whatever was out there to help them satisfy that craving, and of course, unfortunately, he turned to heroin, and the heroin started getting cut with fentanyl, and that was what led to his death back in 2015. He was living in Roanoke at the time.
I am so sorry. You know, what you brought up was interesting, because I know for a fact a lot of military veterans, they go through situations like that. I guess, I mean, I know it's 8 years later, but I mean, how are you handling it now?
You know, I still think about him a lot, and certainly miss him. And he left 3 kids behind, and I stay in contact with them. His son is a senior this year in Albemarle County in Charlottesville, and I try to take him hunting, you know, in the fall. That's something David, my brother, and I did every year. So I've been trying to take his son, David Jr., hunting, you know, every year since his dad died. We try to spend time together, and he's got a daughter who lives in Tazewell County now, and try to take her camping periodically. So we try to keep them involved in family as much as possible, but it definitely left a void, and it was his experience in Iraq, I really feel like, that sent him down that path that maybe he wouldn't have went down otherwise.
What do you think could be done to remedy something like that? I mean, if a service member is in a situation like, what do you feel can be done to prevent something like that, or not have this type of tragedy?
Yeah, I feel like some reform at the VA could be helpful. When he started spiraling out of control, we reached out to the VA because he came back and qualified for 100% disability, and so he was getting a check every month, and but when his life started spiraling out of control and he became homeless, and you know, I reached out to the VA to see if they would not assign him a payee to help manage the money, at least to make sure he had a roof over his head and food to eat, and that his you know, kids were taken care of. And there seemed to be no mechanism for that to be in place with veterans, and as a result, he would get his check at the first of the month and be you know, broke by the second because of his drug use, and it was just a continuous cycle that led into, you know, trouble with the law and other issues that he was dealing with, and there didn't seem to be enough support at the VA for us to be able to turn to as his family and help pull him out of it.
He passed away in 2015. Where did he pass away?
In Roanoke, yeah.
What was your brother's name?
David.
David
Siers, yeah.
Again, I'm deeply sorry.
Well, I appreciate it. It's like I said, it's been 8 years, and the shock of it wears off. But you know, you still like to have him around and wish things would have been differently.
Yes, sir. I mean, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm getting emotional over it. It's just you just hate seeing your fellow brother in the uniform.
Yeah,
go through that.
I mean, he was very proud of his service and very proud to have been in the military. It's just like I say, his whole group, you know, we were over there, I was over there in 2003 during the initial invasion, and I wouldn't say we were viewed as liberators, but definitely the relationship and the experience was more positive in 2003 than it became in 2004 when the insurgency started, and so he had probably a lot rougher experience than those of us who were over there first had.
You know, my dad, God rest his soul, when he was in Vietnam, and my mom, and you know, my dad never talked about it because it was stuff that happened that he would have nightmares, and you know, and that's, I mean, he passed away in 2008, but that wasn't the reason, but he never talked about it.
Yeah.
Never. And I think that was an issue with a lot of veterans, Vietnam veterans. A, it was the way they were treated when they came back home. B, stuff that happened over there, and unless you've experienced it, it's hard to even describe.
Yeah.
And he, you know, he told stories of my mom, but he would never talk to us about it. And that's like a thing now. It's the mental health of, which that kind of leads to that, the mental health of soldiers. Because, and anyone that were, not just soldiers, but you know, anyone in the uniform, that is like a real big thing that, and I did stories in the past, you know, with, you know, talking to VA people about, we really trying to help the mental health of the soldiers and the airmen and Marines and sailors and all that serve. So.
Yeah. It's a huge issue. You know, I don't know what the daily suicide rate is now, but I know there for a while it was 22 a day were committing suicide, and you know, it's just indicative that there need to be better systems in place to help veterans who might be struggling with those types of issues.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you giving me time, you know, interviewing you. I didn't realize about your brother and everything like that. So again, my deepest apologies.
Oh no, I've given a few speeches on it over the years and been public about it. It's you know, it's unfortunately something that just about every family in this area has had to deal with at one point or another. I don't think the opioid epidemic left anyone unscarred.
Yeah. Well, the other day, Lauren Sisler, you know, she lost her parents from fentanyl.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
This was, she's the ESPN sound report. She's from Giles.
Okay.
So she's flying back home. No, actually, she got a call from her dad saying that her mom passed away due to fentanyl. And as she's flying home from Rutgers, because she went to Rutgers and was a gymnast, you know, her dad didn't pick her up like her uncle and her brother picked her up, and they said, well, Dad died from the same thing. So as she's flying, in the span of a day, she lost her mother and father from fentanyl.
It's unreal.
The opioid epidemic is serious.
Yeah.
So, but I appreciate you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.